Let's talk about this big strike going on.
Yeah,
There's a lot of moving parts, and it's just gotten bigger with the
yeah,
SAG-AFTRA union joining, and
yeah.
we haven't talked about it on the show yet.
No, yeah, I think it's definitely a thing that we should be discussing, especially like you said, now that it is blown up into the all of Hollywood almost, essentially.
Basically, yeah. I mean, you've got the Writers Guild of America that started their strike on May 1st when their deal expired with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, which nobody really knows about or hears about very often.
Yeah,
But they're the big honchos in Hollywood who run the whole show, the mysterious AMPTP. They, broker deals with these unions to kind of, I don't know, keep the peace,
yeah.
so to speak. So a lot of people might remember the writer's strike of 2007. That's the only other big one that's happened kind of in our lifetime. And if you remember, a lot of it back then was about pay. That
Hmm.
hasn't really changed. We're talking about pay again this time, but we're talking about a little more than that. Um, in 2007, streaming video basically did not exist, so it was not a thing like it is now. And a big sticking point when it comes to financials is that, did you know that these writers and actors are not making any residuals off of these streaming shows they're doing?
You know, I didn't, and that's interesting because I was always curious as to how they got paid in general for streaming shows post season run,
Mm-hmm.
because that is a thing, and I mean that's why syndication
Mm-hmm.
became such a big thing for a show because it meant those people, those writers, those actors, all of the people involved would continue to get paid
Right.
after the show has ended, giving them some kind of security. And so again, with streaming, I don't know how often these contracts are updated, but I certainly know that usually the technology runs faster than the industry. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's definitely a thing that I have no idea about. So this strike is definitely bringing all of that to light, or should be if you're not aware of it.
Yeah, and now that SAG-AFTRA, the actors union, has joined in, you're seeing a lot of famous people talking about it. Just the nature of the business is that actors are more famous than writers, so
Right.
getting their faces on screen is important. And I saw a couple that were really shocking to me. Sean Gunn, who we know as James Gunn's brother and is one of the stars of the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise. He was on Gilmore Girls for a long time. He was talking the other day and said that he doesn't make anything off of Gilmore Girls streams on Netflix, despite it being one of their top syndicated shows. He makes nothing. There was another actress I saw post a TikTok. She starred in several seasons of Orange is the New Black on Netflix and actually showed video of her residual check. And for all these episodes of all these seasons, it was $27 for a
$27.
Netflix original. $27 was her residuals check. And that
Wow.
is what they're fighting about. So
Sure.
I think the immediate reaction to kind of your average person that isn't involved in this stuff is that, why are all these rich, famous people asking for more money?
Because they're
It's
being held
not,
hostage by richer, less famous people.
well, exactly. It's not about the rich and famous ones. They are the ones who are thankfully supportive of doing this and leading it, but it is for all the other people who are union members in these writers and acting guilds. Something like 2% of members of these groups are successful enough to make a living wage doing these jobs. So the vast majority are not rich and famous. The vast majority. So go ahead and get rid of that idea right now if you have it. We're not talking about getting Matt Damon more money. We're talking about these actors that you don't know who do work all the time and who should be able to live off of it, not being able to.
Yeah. Same thing with the writers. You talked
Yep.
about pay, but the other thing is the lack of season number. Originally, a long time ago, sitcoms would have 13, 24, sometimes episodes a season. And
Hmm.
now a streaming service has 8, 10. Sometimes shows have 8, 10 episodes, depending on, they usually run them as a limited series, and then they bring them back for a round two because it's really well received, but it's only like an 8 episode max or something like that. So all of these shows, they get such high quality production content, and they only run what, 8 episodes, and that's a fraction of
Hmm.
job security in
Hmm.
itself.
Hmm. And then there's no way of really knowing if the show is successful or not until the streamer says it is. There is no credible rating system. The Nielsen ratings don't really work the same way for streaming as they do for broadcast. And so you just kind of have to like trust what Netflix says as to what's successful. And so there's a
And if
lot
there's
less
anybody you should trust, it's
it's
Netflix.
Netflix. There's a lot less security in your show being renewed too. So Netflix is known for buying up shows and then not renewing them or canceling them pretty quickly before they even get a chance to take off. So yeah, these are the people who are asking for more money. On top of that, we got the whole AI thing now,
Right.
where we've got these creatives kind of sounding the alarm on the speed at which generative AI has exploded recently has made it kind of scary as to what it might be able to do down the line. And so we've got writers worried that studios might forego paying writers altogether and have AI write their scripts. And most people might roll their eyes at that and say, that's not, they can't do that yet. Not yet, but there's no reason to think they wouldn't down the line. And for actors, this blew my mind when I heard Fran Drescher talk about it, who is the SAG-AFTRA president. She said the studios were talking about digitally scanning background actors who do play roles as extras. People walking in the background; those are paid actors. They're not doing it for free, but they're talking about digitally scanning them and then being able to use them throughout the movie or television show throughout the production so that they only have to pay them for the one day of shooting versus the full thing. And that's also unacceptable.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's crazy. The whole thing is crazy. My only pushback to anything is I've seen a lot of those Netflix original movies, and I can't be convinced that some of them haven't already been created by AI robots. They're way
Valid.
too similar, and they're way too generic, and they're way too I don't know, body, if you will. So that's my only thing on that. But I agree. No, that the using an AI to write anything for creative purposes to take over for an actual creative purpose is going to lead you to something bad. Probably plagiarism in the long run. You're going to be in copyright infringement of
Yeah,
somebody
at
else's thing. This is
best.
all scanned from the internet. So somebody's going to be like, that's my thing that's been on the internet since like 2005, bro. So, you're just going to get yourself in trouble. So that is
Mhm.
a dangerous one. And then, yeah, definitely the body scanning thing is incredibly, and that is incredibly sketch. No, 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 no,
It's
friends.
super sketch. And there's already
Yeah.
that's happening to a degree. There's a lot of movies who will, shoot background extras and then kind of multiply those same ones. And
Yeah.
I don't think that's seen as controversial as what this is, because that's more of a you can't hire thousands and thousands of background actors. I get that. But this is totally different. This is being able to you guys watch movies, people watching this show, you know what they can do with CGI now. Disney brings actors back to life, they de-age them excellently. So that's really more concerning to me than the writing part,
For
in
sure.
terms of essentially deep faking people just to get out of paying them.
You know what I think an interesting comparison could be for the writers to consider is what college athletes went through for video games.
Mm,
Video games like Madden, or not Madden, but like NCAA, whatever, whatever.
right.
You couldn't have their names on there because of the likeness issue. You had to pay them for their rights. So it was net like a college football player. I don't know if they are now. It's been a long time since I played, but growing up, they didn't have the college names. It was like number 18, right? That was
Right.
the actual number, but the name wasn't on there and the
It was a
likeness itself wasn't
generic
on there.
person.
Exactly. So I'm wondering if that is something that they could look into of like, I don't know if the rules have changed, but I know sports in general has changed to where college athletes have a lot more rights than what they used to. So I think that could be something that maybe they use as if they need to use it to their advantage. I think that could be interesting. What do you think the solution is? Because, obviously we want more people to get more money, but I still think that, you look at the model itself, and that's what, if I remember right, Fran Drescher was talking about. The model has changed so much. Initially when Netflix was here, they didn't have original programming. They took content from streamers, or from broadcasts, from movies, whatever. And then those people were like, wait a minute, we can do this ourselves. And so we don't need Netflix. So then we're just going to put our stuff on our own thing and try to get people there. And either way, you're still not getting people paid, because now you have to create original content to fill that. And Netflix, everybody, it has to become a thing. So can we go back to that old model of Netflix pays broadcasters a fee to house their stuff, and then that money is distributed amongst the industry and the actors? Are we so far gone that that's not even a feasible solution anymore? Because that
Well,
seems like it makes the most sense. Because everybody costs, like, Netflix has to create its own original content, CBS has to create its own original content outside of everything. So everybody's just content, 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 and maybe that's not what we need. Maybe we need to lessen it up and go back to where Netflix is just a housing unit and people pay for that and they fight over the like a cable situation. I don't know, but that seems like maybe a better model for everyone involved and a little less cost expensive.
right. Well, so I think there's a couple of steps that can be taken to reach a solution. But like, I don't know that anyone's gonna like them, because it's gonna involve these studios have got to stop spending so much money. Uh, it's really comical. I think
Yeah,
it's
for
it's
sure.
it's ridiculous spending to the point where I would start asking questions about embezzlement. Like, you all do not need to be spending hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars on one film. I don't believe
Yeah,
that, because
agreed,
we see
without question.
very good low budget movies with good effects made all the time. So why is a movie like Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny costing $300 million, one of the most expensive movies of all time, when
Mhm.
it visually doesn't really look any better than any other CGI movie?
Yeah,
Why is that happening? I saw another graphic being shared around in the strike talk showing the budgets for Disney Plus Marvel shows. And these 6 episode TV shows they're still spending as much as a blockbuster film. Why are you spending that much? Where is it going? Because
yeah,
we know it's not going to the writers or these actors who aren't, Samuel L. Jackson.
right.
They're going to have to cut their spending, but that also means there's going to be fewer projects, which is less work for writers, but could also mean better projects potentially if
Right. We
we
got to, or go ahead.
cut
I'm
them
sorry.
loose. I was just wrapping that up.
No, we're definitely in a situation of content overload. Like
Hmm.
everybody, you're just blasting stuff out. Good idea, bad idea, relatively finished idea. Let's just throw it on the air and see how many people watch it. And that just seems like a doomed model, because how are you creating revenue? That's what I can't
Well, they
understand. Is like,
can't.
I get you that you're getting the subscription model, but even your outward cash flow is not enough for your 4.99, 10.99 a month to be influx that enough. Like, I just don't believe that.
That's the problem, is they're spending way more than they're making, and they're making quite a lot. That's the problem. Like, Disney
Right.
Plus makes hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and that is somehow still not enough, and that is ridiculous.
Yeah.
At that point, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
How
Well,
is it making that much money and you're still spending that much?
yeah, and look at all the, I really do think you look at the blockbuster model that we're gonna be talking about in this episode here. We're gonna be talking about Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. That's gonna be number one in the box office for one week because Barbie and
And
Oppenheimer are coming out
Oppenheimer,
next
yeah.
week. And then the week before that, you had Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny was in there for what, 1 or 2 weeks before Mission Impossible did. Like, there's just, it's so condensed, but also just constant. Like, there's just constantly crap coming out just so people focus on like the blockbuster months. Spread your stuff out. Quality over quantity will net you longer runs in the box office too. I mean, you want your movie to be doing well throughout for a long time. You want people to go see it over and over. But like, these movies are going to get buried just because there's another big one coming out next week. And then I'm going to lose my interest in that one because, well, I'm already behind. Like, I'm not going to have a chance to catch up until later. So I just don't see I don't understand the model, I guess, is truly the situation. It doesn't make feasible financial or logical sense.
Yeah, that's the issue. It's because the environment has changed too much, because that model did make sense without streaming, right?
Yeah.
But now they're competing with themselves and telling people to also stay home and watch this thing on Disney Plus. And then on top of that, coming out of the pandemic, we know that most people now feel pretty confident that a new movie will be on streaming relatively soon. So why should I go out and see it? And that's the solution to that. No one will like, and that is they have to put it on streaming later, but that will
Yeah.
make people mad. But that's the only way. Disney Plus movies or Disney box office movies hitting streaming in 3 months is that's why you don't make money. You're making no
Hmm.
money anyway.
And I still think that like TV broadcasters consider getting rid of your streaming and then working with Hulu, working with Netflix and using that payment method. I don't know. I don't see a benefit necessarily of housing your own stuff other than it doesn't cost you anything. But then again, in order to keep me interested, you have to keep creating original programming. I think we've learned that's the model. You're not going to get me there just on your archive, you know. But that's where third party like Netflix used to be helpful. They had a lot of people's archives.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and with TV, they also just need to make less.
Agreed.
It didn't used to be where there was a new series premiering every week. It was like the fall TV season was when the big shows came out, and then the summer was like some fun, like reality shows. But now it's like a big show is dropping every month. Slow that down too.
Yeah,
Let me catch
without
up.
question. Yeah,
Well, I don't know. Maybe we're old. We might be too old school, but hey,
maybe. There's got to be
still
a balance though, because it's clearly not working for a lot of people right now. I mean,
no.
again, it's working for the studio executive who do make what was it? The Netflix guys, how much money was their bonus or whatever? Millions of dollars, an astronomical amount, an insanely stupid amount,
Mm-hmm.
despite the fact that
Mm-hmm.
they're telling everybody that they got to kick off their own passwords. And I don't know if they say that their numbers are up, but I don't necessarily believe them. Why should I? You know, it's we're here over on so many sequels with the writers and the actors right here. If you haven't figured this
Exactly.
out, we're very
Yes.
biased.
Long story short, we're supportive of the strike and believe that they should get all of the compensation that they deserve, because people are so dismissive of that kind of work. But like, what do you do all day, all night? You consume the content. Like, if
Right.
it went away, it would be difficult for people for a long time because we've gotten used to it. We didn't
You'd have
always
to
have
talk
it,
to
so
your
we'd get used
family.
to it again. But
Yeah,
yeah.
I know. It's yeah. It's gonna be interesting. And again, as of this recording, you know, you're allowed to go see movies as an audience member, so you can continue to do that. I don't know if and when they will change that, but if they do, we'll figure out something else to do for the show.
Yes, yes. This is not a general audience strike yet. They haven't called for that. Hopefully, they don't have to. This is the first time in 60 some odd years that both of these unions have been on strike together. So it is a very significant period of time in Hollywood. Either way, it's likely to have a historic end eventually,
Yeah.
with hopefully some good news.
Yeah. And
And
remember, as soon as your favorite movie or TV show is delayed, don't blame the actors, don't blame the writers.
Right.
Blame the rich, wealthy people who are trying to stay low because they think that by doing that, they'll be like, oh, I'm just one person. Yeah, but that person's got more money than all of them people out there on that picket line put together.
I know. And like I'm old school. I like late night TV. I miss my Colbert. I miss my
Yeah.
Colbert clips. He's
Yeah.
been off since May. All the late night shows have been off. I haven't heard anything if they at what point they would consider coming back. You know, like they in '07 they came back and just improv the whole show. That was interesting. I assume that's on the table eventually. But then
Yeah.
again, with the Actors
With the
Guild,
riot actors, yeah.
then it's
Writers and
like, is
actors.
it? I don't know.
They can't come promote their shows really.
No, and they've already started figuring out how to get around that. Disney had a premiere for the new Haunted Mansion movie the other day, and used Disney World characters on the red carpet instead of the actors. So
Wow.
clever, but still.
Only Disney
Hmm.
can do that.
That's true. That's true. You won't see a Warner Brothers movie with Looney Tunes characters on the. Although I'd like that. I would be into
Yeah,
that.
that'd be fun.
Anyway, I think that's enough talk about the strike for today. We will be sure to keep you all updated with it as we kind of keep up with it along the way. But again, really hoping that it ends as soon as possible because people need to work and people need to get their money. America.
Definitely. Capitalism, man.